Have you ever been the one nobody picked? The last one called. The first one cut. Passed right over for the very thing you'd have been perfect at. If you know that feeling, and friend, most of us do, then pull your chair up close to the fire, because tonight I've got a story for you. It's about a company you've surely heard of. Matter of fact, you might be wearing it right now. There's a book called Shoe Dog, written by a shy, rail-thin fella named Phil Knight, and it tells the true tale of how Nike came to be. Not built by the smartest, not by the strongest, built every last stitch of it by a band of rejects. Before we're through, you'll meet a track star who lost the use of his legs and still looked his boss dead in the eye and swore he'd come to work to kill him. You meet the finest numbers man in the whole building, turned away from the top for one foolish reason. You'll watch a handful of nobodies square off against a giant the world swore could not be beaten. And you'll see a mother and a father press every dollar they had ever saved into the hand of a broke young stranger, and live to be glad they did. 5 lessons hide inside this story. Let's go and find them. Act 1. The Men Nobody Wanted. It starts with Phil himself. As a boy, he got cut clean from his high school baseball team, and it knocked the wind right out of him. He moped for 2 whole weeks till his own mama sat on the edge of his bed and said, "You can run fast, Buck." So he ran. And out of all that running came a crazy idea. That's just what he called it, capital C, to carry Japanese running shoes across the ocean to America. In 1962, he flew clear around the world to pitch it. And when those Japanese executives leaned in and asked the name of his company, well, he didn't have a company. So he looked down, thought of the blue ribbons pinned up on his boyhood wall, and blurted out 2 words. Blue ribbon! That was it. That's how the whole thing started. A bashful young man and a name made up on the spot. Now, a dream needs builders. And the builders who came, oh, let me tell you about them. First was his old college coach, Bowerman, an eccentric old genius who could not stop tearing shoes apart and stitching them back together a little better. One Sunday over breakfast, he sat staring at his wife's waffle iron, got himself a notion, carried it out to the garage, and poured liquid rubber straight into it. Ruined the thing dead, all chasing a soul that would grip the road like nothing before it. And do you know what? That ruined old waffle iron gave birth to the most famous running shoe of its day. Next came Johnson, a peculiar bookish soul who simply could not abide a regular 9-to-5. An ordinary office near about smothered the man, but set him down among runners and he came alive. He wrote letters by the hundreds. He built the company's first little store to feel like a church for runners. And one night, the very name of the company came to him, in a dream. Nike, the Greek goddess of victory. Think on that, friend. The name now stitched on 1 billion shoes was dreamed up by a man the regular world had no place for. Then there was Dell, the finest accountant you ever saw. A man, as Phil writes in Shoe Dog, who was simply born to the numbers. His old firm would have made him a partner, the very top of the mountain, save for one foolish reason. The man was heavy. Too heavy, they decided, to sit at their fine table. So they passed him over. And that rejected numbers man went and built the very bones of Nike. The books, the systems, the steel skeleton the whole thing would stand upon. And then came Bob Woodell. Lord, this one will stay with you. Bob had been a track star, a champion, until a freak accident broke his back and took his legs for good. Phil, who never could find the right words, hired him over a sandwich. And Bob, sitting there in that wheelchair, looked up and made one thing crystal clear. Don't you dare feel sorry for me. I'm here to kill you. And he meant every word. That man in the chair brought more order to that wild company than anybody walking on 2 good legs. Why, they used to time him with a stopwatch. How fast could he fold that wheelchair and swing himself into his car? and that old runner loved the challenge of beating his own best time. You see the first lesson already, don't you? Every last one of these men had been forged by early failure. And here comes the second, the very heart of the thing. The wound that made each man a reject turned out to be the exact gift the company could not have lived without. Act 2. The Dwarfs and the Giant. So now they had a dream and a band of broken men. What they did not have was money, nor much of a prayer. Towering over the whole shoe world stood a giant, Adidas. Everybody wore it. Nobody beat it. Phil looked at his ragtag crew, and he looked at that giant, and he said, half laughing, half dead serious, "We are Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. And we," he said, "are the Dwarfs." Worse still, their own supplier over in Japan turned on them. The very people they had trusted, the very people who had shaken their hands. They tried to swallow the little company whole, break the deal, toss the Dwarfs aside. Betrayal, plain and simple. And out of that desperation, backs flat against the wall, the Dwarfs finally made a shoe all their own brand, that swoosh, Nike. Money was forever short. Some days there wasn't a single dollar in the account. Even their own bank turned on them, and near about shut the whole dream down for good. By every measure of plain common sense, these misfits should have folded right there in the dust. But you know what a reject learns, young? How to take a no and keep right on walking. These men had been told no their whole lives. One more no wasn't about to stop them now. And here's the third lesson, and it's about the man at the head of the table. Phil didn't hover, and he didn't boss. His way, borrowed from an old wartime general, was simple as could be. Don't tell good people how to do a thing. Tell them what you need, then stand back and let them surprise you. So he turned his rejects loose. And friend, a curious thing happens when a broken man is finally trusted. He will run straight through a wall for you. The man in the wheelchair brought the chaos to heal. The heavy man laid the foundation. They even gave their rowdy gatherings a name, one I surely cannot repeat here by the fire. And that's the fourth lesson. A pack of outcasts, bound together by nothing but shared, stubborn will, can bring a giant to its knees. The Dwarfs just kept on coming, and they would not lose. Act 3. They became family. Now, I told you about a mother and a father, and I mean to keep my word. Back when the company was so broke it could scarcely keep the lights burning, Phil drove out to the home of Bob Woodell's folks. Bob, you remember, the man in the wheelchair. And he asked them, hat in hand, for a loan. These were not wealthy people. They had already spent dearly on their boy's care. And yet, they reached down and handed over their entire life savings. Every last dollar. And when Phil asked them, plain, why on God's earth they would do such a thing, Bob's mother gave him an answer I want you to carry home with you tonight. If you can't trust the company your son is working for, she said, then who can you trust? Hold tight to that. Because years on, when these misfits at last took their little company public, that loan of $8,000 had grown to be worth $1.6 million. That's what a little faith will do, friend, when it's placed in the right, broken hands. It comes back to you 1,000-fold. But the money was never the point. Not really. And that's the fifth and final lesson. The very one Phil Knight closes his whole book upon. After all the broke nights, all the long odds, all the giants, he looked back on the thing they had raised up, and he wrote 4 plain words. It's never just business. No, it never is. Because what those rejects built was so much more than a shoe company. The man too heavy for the fine table, the boy cut from his team, the soul who couldn't sit still in an office, the champion who lost his legs. They didn't just topple a giant. They became a family. And not one of them was made great in spite of his failure. Everyone was made great because of it. Forged by early failure, and then together, forged into champions. So if tonight you're feeling like the one nobody picks, too broken, too odd, too far behind, I want you to remember this little band of misfits and that swoosh they raised up out of nothing. Your wound is not the end of your story, friend. It just might be the start of it. Now, if this old tale warmed you any, you come on back and pull your chair up close. There's always another story waiting here by the fire. The book is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, and I hope you'll go and read it your own self. Till next time, you take care now. You hear?